Good morning to all, and good afternoon for some of you, as I've noticed that some of you are logging in from the Middle East. So welcome to this virtual Paris Arbitration Week. It is very strange for us, as you can imagine. We were used to greeting you on Monday evening after the ICC conference, and on Monday night to say hello and welcome. And we're bracing ourselves for a week filled with cocktails and dinners and events. And this year is going to be very different. It's no less very exciting. As you will have noticed, and as we will be talking about a little bit more this morning, it's an extraordinary event and we couldn't be more proud. And let me first of all introduce what I would mean by we and introduce my teammates. So none of them need introduction, but for good measure, Alexandre Fessas, the ICC Secretary General, will give you a little bit of insight into our thinking process and what happened over the past couple of months, as you know, it did for all of you during this COVID crisis, as to how we were going to address and react, and more importantly, adapt to these new circumstances. Peter Rosher, partner at Reed Smith, construction specialist, that you'll be hearing a lot from this week, and notably at the GAR Live events, is going to say a couple of words about the incredible amount of support that we've had from our host organizations, without which we still can be continuing today. And then Clément Fouchard, a partner at Reed Smith, is going to give you a little bit of insight into the exciting events that we're looking forward and the themes that are going to be discussed more in detail this week. Danis is going to give you insight into the overwhelming support that we've had from the partners in Paris and abroad for this special edition of Paris Arbitration Week. And José Feris, partner from Squire Patton Boggs, is going to give you further insight into all of the non-profit organizations that have decided to be part of Paris Arbitration Week, whether they're French or actually international. I should have mentioned that Marie Danis is also a partner at Auguste de Bouzy, in addition to be one of the starlight members of the Paris Arbitration Organizing Committee. So Alexandre Fessas, no, actually, we're starting with Peter Rosher. Peter, over to you.
Thanks very much, Yas. Hello to everybody. We really wanted to express our warm thanks to our 4 host organizations, who, as Yas mentioned before, have given us tremendous support and encouragement since 2017, when this event first took off. First and foremost, warm thanks to Paris, the home of international arbitration, or Paris Place d'Arbitrage, under the presidency of Ellie Kleiman. And Ellie, right from the very beginning, saw the potential of the Paris Arbitration Week and has been giving us unwavering support and encouragement. The next organization is the ICC, and Alexis Moore, president of the International Court of Arbitration, has also been giving tremendous support for Paris Arbitration Week, and has been joined by the president and the organization, the Comité Française d'Arbitrage, the French Arbitration Committee. So that was Laurence Jéguer. And last but not least, there is Marc-Henri and the French Arbitration Association, l'Association Française d'Arbitrage. They have all been giving us some dynamic support and encouragement, and we really do want to express very sincerely our warm thanks to each of those organizations. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And now, Alex, to our horribly grueling, terrible, and elevating moments that we've shared over the past 12 months.
All of that combined in one. Thank you, Yas, and good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, everyone. The first speaker who did not introduce herself, and somebody does need to do that, is Yasmin Mohammad, who's the head of international arbitration with Van and Capital. So I'd like to just focus for just 2 brief moments on 2 aspects of our work leading to POW 2020 in full virtual format. And that is, how did we manage ultimately to switch to virtuality as a result of COVID-19? And I think that process was not, in retrospect, is not necessarily entirely obvious to any of us or anyone out there. I think for the longest time, ourselves, as many others who were planning events throughout the world in international arbitration, were hoping secretly that what we were seeing developing and ultimately culminating as a pandemic and spreading around the world would actually not lead to such a disruption as to completely wipe out events or cause their postponement or their cancellation. And that is why ultimately, as a first step, we did not switch to virtual. We were somewhat in denial, I suppose, as everybody else, and with good reason. So we just decided to move Paris Arbitration Week from its usual time slot in April or end of March to the summer, thinking that that would normally be the time that everything would be calming down, yet not too far into the summer, the beginning of July, to be affected by holidays. Then, of course, once France started going into lockdown, following the examples of some of the Asian hubs, and way before North America did that, we realized that much as the dates were attractive, the plan was not tenable. And that is why we decided to then move to virtual. And I think it was a very organic and very natural process. We have all benefited, I think, from the use of technology in our respective daily professional settings. We were confident that most of our users would actually feel comfortable maintaining their events and switching them into a virtual setting. And we were there to provide support. But before providing support, and I'll stop with that because that's my second point, we also got their support. And I think that is really what is so important here. We reached out to the power partners, the many law firms and other providers, service providers in arbitration in Paris and throughout the world. And I think that's important to note because, of course, we're out of Paris, but we're not just Paris. To seek their advice and see whether this format that we were now contemplating is something that they would find attractive, and that is something they would sign up for. And we got an unreserved yes. And I think basically that is how the ball started rolling. And here we are.
Thank you, Alex. What Alex then mentioned is the grueling conversations that we had on numerous occasions, and the many times we thought about giving up and saying, you know, maybe this is a year where there won't be a POW. And there was an overwhelming sentiment within the team and across the community that one way or another, we had to rally, pull together and make this happen. And we couldn't be happier to be here now today. So moving on now to the support, the very important monetary support that we're receiving in order to keep it going and to prepare for next year. Marie?
Thank you, Yas. Good morning for those who are in Europe. Good afternoon for the Asian, and good night for the American. Happy to say that we have this year 32 firms, provider helping us, supporting the Paris Arbitration Week, sponsoring, and also many of them organizing events. And Clément will address this issue. And we want to send them a very warm thank, and I will give their name. Practically, I think the order is alphabetical, and I will start with Accuracy, Bredin-Pratt, Darrois-Villet, Davis-Polk, De Beauvois, Deckert, Dorin-Segaravi, Denton, Diles, DLA Piper, 8 Advisory, Eversheds, Phil Fisher, FTI, Gar, Herbert Smith, Hogan Lovells, Jean Tay, Hughes Mundy, Kier Gates, Laborde Law, Latham and Watkins, Mayer Brown, Pinson Masons, Tenier Peak, 3 Crowns, White and Case, Winston and Strawn. We also have our law firm, the member of the organizing committee firm, Reed Smith, Squire, Vanning Capital, and Augustin Debussy for myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahi. And now on to the exciting events that we have to look forward to this week and the themes that we can see developing. Clément?
Thank you, Yas. Good morning to everyone. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to address this topic today regarding the various events and the various topics we will be seeing for the week. I mean, even before going virtual, Paris Arbitration Week was quite recognized for addressing the hot topics of the arbitration community. Well, this is the even more true this year, with virtuality allowing the Paris Arbitration Week to extend its reach to the broader international community. And for instance, just to take an illustration to the African continent, with more than 4 events relating to Africa this year. Other big events will also be organized. The 4th European ICC conference has already been mentioned, the GAR Live on Construction 2. And what is really interesting to see when you look at the Paris Arbitration Week program is to see the diversity of the various issues, which really pave the way for the future of our practice, of this practice. So just to mention a few, corruption is one of the topics, with 2 events being organized, but also climate change. And I see that, for instance, the European conference has a specific session on climate law. I would also mention new topics such as cyber attacks and how to defend it, but also data protection and what are the implications for arbitration. Other topics involve also the development of conciliation and mediation, either in some sectors or in some regional areas also. Construction, I mentioned it with the GAR Live, but there are also 3 other events which will be addressing that topic. And I would maybe just finish by the geographical coverage of the topics and the events, with actually virtually all continents being addressed in one way or another. Africa, I mentioned it, but also the Americas, Asia, and especially India, the Lusophone world, Central Eastern Europe, and maybe other more specific events. So as you can see, Paris Arbitration Week, even on a virtual mode, is really international in its really NDA, and that's really a good news. Thank you, Yas.
Thank you, Clément. And I think, as we've all noticed, Paris Arbitration Week is even more international in this virtual mode. It is giving the opportunity for people who, sometimes couldn't make it to Paris to nonetheless participate in the events. And one of the things that we find extraordinary is that not only do we have law firms, other service providers who participate in the week and organize events, but we also have nonprofit organizations, associations specialized in international arbitration from other regions of the world who participate in our week. José?
Thank you, Yas, and welcome everyone to Paris Arbitration Week. It's a pleasure for us to be starting this week with this early meeting. As Yas said, and others have said as well, one of the main issues we had in mind when we decided to go virtual this year was whether we were able to reach out further, and whether we would be able to grow Paris outside Paris. And I think the list of nonprofit organizations that are supporting Paris Arbitration Week, it is a clear indication that we have just achieved that. We have organizations spanning from every continent, or at least every single of the main time zones in the world. We have from Asia joining us this young Singapore International Arbitration Center group, which is hosting an event. We do have, from the other side of the Atlantic, a few organizations. We have the Brazilian Arbitration Committee, who is joining us this year for its third time. Brazilians are now a usual supporter of the Paris Arbitration Week, together with the Latin American Arbitration Association. So Latin America very much present in this year's Paris Arbitration Week. And then we do have, as Clément said, interest from Africa, and we have two organizations that are devoted to Africa: Africa Arbitration Academy and AfriCarb. And then, of course, we have a few organizations that are based in Europe, but not just in France. So we have Queen Mary University, London, which, as many of you know, they are not only based in London, but they are also based in Paris, and they're joining La Revue de Droit des Affaires Internationales with a very interesting event this year. We also have our bar, the Paris Bar, the organization that gathers all Parisian lawyers, which are not necessarily French. As you know, that's one of the attractives of Paris as place of arbitration, is that many foreigners are able to exercise and practice law here in France, particularly in Paris. And they are joining the Global Pound Conference of Paris, which is an organization that was set up with a particular objective a few years ago, and it's still live, and it's one of those organizations that keep coming back to Paris Arbitration Week. We have the young organizations that are joining from our European friends, Stefani 40 from Belgium, Asaf from Switzerland. They are joining our very own CFA 40. We also have from France, the CMAP, which is the Mediation and Arbitration of Paris. And we have a very well-known organization to the whole community worldwide, which is the CIARB, the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. And last but not least, we do have from Paris, Paris Place de Droit. As you know, Paris is not only a place for arbitration, but French law is applicable in many parts of the world, and they also are very much present here in this edition of Paris Arbitration Week. And then from Eastern Europe, we have the Ukrainian Arbitration Association that is joining us. So it's not just Central Europe, but also Central and Eastern Europe joining us. So as you know, as you can see, it's a very exciting week. And the participation of these non-profits organizations will make sure that many people around the world, not just based in Paris, not just based in Europe, will be joining us throughout the week. And we are delighted and excited, and we want to thank them for their support. Yes.
Thank you, Jose. And before we move on to a quick Q&A session, if there are any questions for us, I wanted just to say a quick word of thank you to the Master 2, Massy, who has been supporting Paris Arbitration Week and who is following all of the events, reporting on the events, making sure that all of the events are visible on social media, take pictures and draft reports. And thank you for their ongoing support. Also, a word of thanks to Amélie Rosier, who makes sure that there's nothing inappropriate in our backgrounds and keeps us all sane, who is the marketing and PR whiz in Paris. Thank you, Amélie. And finally to Sarah Minwish, who is our all-around lifesaver, without whom we couldn't do much, or frankly, I couldn't do anything. And to whom we're very grateful for everything she does for us on a daily basis. So if there are any questions, I see that there's one question actually. Let me read it out. Will the webinars be recorded for possible later viewings? So this particular webinar is being recorded. And I understand that each and every different partners will be recording their webinars, I think without exception. And we will be posting those webinars onto the YouTube channel of Paris Arbitration Week. Yes, we have a YouTube channel now. And so feel free to log on to the YouTube channel, parisarbitrationweek.com, and look up the videos if you missed any of the webinars. See, I think we have one more question. Wait. Good morning. So I understand that we haven't sent through the Elliott Harper's link to all attendees. And Alexander Fessas would like to answer this question.
Sorry, I was just trying to help by indicating that we're answering the question. I did not want you to lose the honors of doing that. But we'll make sure, of course, to send the updated link or the link to everyone, with our apologies for not having done that.
And I have a chat question. Duncan Bagshaw, bonjour à Paris, tu nous manques. Vous nous manquez aussi.
Well, I think it would be a great idea if you can share some pictures of Paris or Paris Arbitration Week in previous editions throughout the week, just to show how much you miss us. As Yas said, we miss you too.
Perhaps we'll give it another minute or two to see if there are any other questions. Here's a question. Will you continue with some form of virtuality going forwards? Peter, would you like to answer that? You're on mute, Peter.
Yeah, take myself off mute. What was the question, Yas? I didn't hear, sorry.
Will the Paris Arbitration Week be continuing with some form of virtuality going forwards?
Neutrality?
Virtuality, webinar.
Virtuality, okay. It'll be neutral and it will be virtual in the future as well as physical. We actually miss the networking, the physical networking that goes on during Paris Arbitration Week. That's not something that we want to give up easily at all. So hopefully next year we will be able to meet physically and network. But I think now that this new forum, and I think the point was already made, that it has actually opened the door in a way that we wouldn't have been able to with physical meetings in Paris. So I think that there will certainly be a virtual element and virtual offering to Paris Arbitration Week going forward. Okay.
Thank you, Peter. I have another question. Hello, will all of the sessions be recorded? So, as we mentioned earlier, each different partner is going to be recording their sessions, and we will be looking to collecting all of those recordings and broadcasting them on the Paris Arbitration Week YouTube channel. And a follow-up question, will it be possible to view them after PAO 2020? And yes, absolutely. The videos will remain on the Paris Arbitration Week YouTube channel, and you can view them as often as you like, for as long as you like after. And this was a question from Mauritius. Thank you for joining us. So we got congratulations for respecting the schedule. Much obliged, thank you.
That comes from somebody who is a delay analysis expert, so knows all about respecting schedules. Thank you, Xavier.
Yes, I think you have a couple more questions.
I see. Okay, so maybe this one will be for, I think, Alex will have the answer. What are the dates of PAO 2021, and does it interact with IBA in Paris at all? Alex?
I should know this. Well, thank you. I should know this by heart, but I don't. I remember that we have dates in April, and as our illustrious repository of common knowledge and memory, I'm sure that you will assist me. I think it's in the middle of April. I think it's right before the 17th, but I'm not really sure when. With my apologies. And as for the dates of the IBA in Paris, the IBA in Paris is scheduled to meet in the fall, which is the week-long annual IBA conference. And so that will give us an additional opportunity to welcome you to Paris, rather than an overlapping opportunity to welcome you to Paris.
So my recollection is that it's the week of the 5th of April next year, but we will check that and post that online for everybody to make sure that the dates of 2021. But there is absolutely no interaction, as Alex said, with the IBA. It's going to be very, different seasons. Do we have more questions? Thank you, Andrew. So IBA, so we have assistance from Andrew Webster Dunn. Thank you very much. Representative of the IBA, we're honored to have you with us. IBA in Paris is taking place the week of the 17th until the 22nd of October, 2021 in Paris. Thank you, Andrew. I think we may be coming to the end of our kickoff session together. I'm just giving a minute to see if there are any other questions, but I think this may be it. In any event, Alex.
Sorry, I just checked. The 2021 dates it's going to be the Paris Arbitration Week will be the week of the 12th of April.
12th of April. So Paris Arbitration Week 2021, week of 12th of April. Thank you all for joining us this morning for this kickoff session. Mostly thank you to my teammates, without whom this would be no fun and no fun at all. So thank you to all 5 of you. Thank you all to you all for joining us this morning. We are looking forward to a very exciting week. I don't know if you are going to be participating in the GAR Live or the awards dinner. All 6 of us will be together. If you want to join us, please do. I think we'll do a bit of a webinar maybe that evening to have a chat to whoever wants to have a drink with us, like we did during the COVID era where we had virtual drinks together. So we'll set up a Zoom and we'll make it available on our LinkedIn and our social media.
And it's a black tie event.
Yes, it's a black tie event. But you can join even if you're not black tie, but we will be black tie. So please join us if you would like to share a drink and a quick chat with us. We'd love to see you. And we wish you a Paris Arbitration Week 2020. Bye, guys.
Have a great week, everyone.
Here's to a great week. Take care, everyone.
Have a great week. Bye-bye.